Meeks, and welcome to another episode of Mixing Media. Today we're going to have some questions from the video editing subreddit on Reddit again. Some repeat names, but first I want to go over the coverage I did of DragonCon 2011 for Bleeding Cool. I thought it might be good for you guys to get an inside look into someone going out and doing live convention coverage or live event coverage. So we'll go ahead and start with that. So this was my second year going to DragonCon. Last year I went to promote the Atom Split animated project I did with Doug Davenport and Mike Dyson here in Atlanta. This year I got to go as official press for bleedingcool.com. It's a blog that covers comics, movies, all sorts of geeky stuff, so a really good fit for DragonCon, Land of the Geek. So me and my friend Corey Beck went down to downtown Atlanta and covered DragonCon for 4 days. I submitted a lot of text pieces to Bleeding Cool, but I also we did about 8 videos, I think. Okay, first I want to talk about 3 things that went right with my coverage of DragonCon this year. One thing that went surprisingly well was the parade. I was a little unsure about how far my press badge would get me as far as like getting in and filming the parade, and we ended up getting there late, probably about 15 minutes before the parade started, so there wasn't anywhere to stand. So what we did, we went up to the top of a parking garage where we saw a lot of people standing. We were like, okay, well, they must not be kicking people out. We went up there and I shot the parade up from above with a wide-angle lens so I could get everything in. And I think it turned out really nice. The parade footage I put on YouTube has got about 2,000 hits. About 35 minutes of the parade out of it was like a 45-minute parade. We missed like the first 5 or 10 minutes getting up into the parking garage and getting everything set up. It had kind of a cool effect because it was from above and everything. It kind of looked like little toys marching, and in all the different like Star Wars costumes, superhero costumes, and everything, Doctor Who. So I was really happy with how the parade went. Another thing that went really, really right was having my friend Corey come with me to assist, because there was a lot of camera. We had a camera bag, a tripod, a still video camera, 2 microphones, 2 microphone cables, and, obviously all the things you would bring to a convention like drinks, snacks, things like that. So it was pretty heavy, and having him there to help carry that, as well as helping set up the equipment, running the cameras, going around while I was in panels and taking still photographs, was just a great help. And he even got some photographs with Stan Lee and George Perez, a lot of big comic book guys, which considering I was covering it for Bleeding Cool, that was probably a very good idea to hit the comic book stuff hard. And the last thing I thought went really, really right with the coverage was my audio setup. Now, I'm actually using the same audio setup we used at the con here now. I considered I have a directional mic that mounts on top of the camera, like a shotgun mic, sometimes they're called. And I thought about taking that, but I was just worried about it being too noisy with all the stuff going on in the convention, especially since I was planning on doing interviews. So I had a few different options. I had some lav mics, but I decided to go with, it's the DXA-2T camcorder adapter from Beach Tech. It's a little box, and it has individual volume adjustments for each microphone. It has 2 XLR microphone ins. That's what I'm using here. This is a Shure PG48. But yeah, you just plug it into the side, and you have individual volume adjustments for each microphone, and they each record on a separate channel. One records on the left channel, one records on the right. There's a line in too if you have a line in mic. It worked really, really well. I didn't have to do hardly any treatment to the audio at all, because these things, since they're meant for doing stuff like this, stand-ups, a lot of punk bands use these. They tend to block out a lot of ambient noise that you would find at a place like a convention. So I didn't have to do really any noise removal. I just had to boost the levels a little bit, and I was good to go. So I was really happy with the audio setup. That saved me a lot of time. Next, let's go over 3 things I think went very, very wrong with my DragonCon coverage this year. I live probably about 25, 30 miles outside of downtown Atlanta, so we didn't get a hotel at the convention site. And I think if anything made our coverage weak as a whole, it was that, because basically we were leaving here probably around 9:30 in the morning, if not earlier. And then we'd get down there around 10:15, depending on traffic. And, we'd run around all day. We'd have to lug these cameras and microphones and everything around with us all day, all the way to when we would leave between 11 at night and 1 a.m. And then we'd get back here, and I'd have to stay up until 3, 4 in the morning editing. And then by then you get 2 or 3 hours sleep, and you're right back at it. So it was very grueling. I felt off for about a week and a half after we finished up. So I think for next year, if we get invited back to do the coverage, I definitely want to stay on site. I think that'll help a lot. Another thing that kind of hurt the coverage was the fact that I wasn't sure I was going to be getting the press badge until the day before, like maybe 2 days before the convention. I think it was either the day before or 2 days before the convention, because I had Rich we had went back and forth about me doing the coverage for him, and the deadline was like right there for getting press credentials and everything. So submitted all my information, didn't hear anything back for weeks. Sent them 1 email, 2 email checking in, heard nothing back. So I was just planning on paying for my badge, going in and doing the coverage anyway, maybe just dying it down a little bit since I wasn't getting a free pass, because, you feel an obligation if you're getting free admission to do a healthy amount of coverage. So it was about 2 days before the convention, and I went ahead and emailed the media relations people at DragonCon, real nice people, by the way. I emailed them one more time, and somehow they had sent me a confirmation, or said they did, and it hadn't got to me. Maybe it got caught in my spam folder or something like that. And the guy was like very apologetic. No, we won't Bleeding Cool there. And here's the confirmation number when you go to check in. So I didn't know if I was going to have access to, because DragonCon has a lot of good stuff for all the celebrities that are there. They have interview rooms. You can sign up times to interview the celebrities, interview, track heads, because each section of the convention is a track. Like there's the sci-fi track and the podcasting track. You get the idea. But so I didn't sign up for any of that because I wasn't sure if I was going to be official press or not, because I didn't know I wasn't able to get nearly the amount of interviews that I wanted to with the bigger names. So next year, if they'll have me back, I'm going to submit my stuff very early, so I'm sure I have the press credentials long before the convention starts, so I can start setting up all those interviews. Okay, now this last thing that went wrong, I'm not going to name names because they're really nice guys. I consider them, if not friends, acquaintance, very strong acquaintances. So I'm not going to name names. But basically there were these 2 guys who were doing a panel who it was TV film concentration, and I thought that would be cool for the TV film side of Bleeding Cool. So I tried to arrange an interview with them on Thursday night. And we arranged to do it right after a panel they were both going to be in attendance at. And, these guys are pretty busy. So one of them had to go straight over to another panel. One of them had to go edit. They said, we'll set it up for tomorrow after this other panel that we know you're going to, that we're on. And so I was like, okay. So, I was going to go to the panel anyway, but I didn't need to take the camera equipment with me. I could have passed that off to Corey. He could have been out filming cosplaying stuff. So it was kind of a little bit of a waste of, if not my time, my equipment's time. But no big deal. We rescheduled it for the next day. Same thing ended up happening. They had stuff they had to do. They had to run off. So I think next year, if I get in again, if these guys know who they are, no ill will. But if I get kind of blown off for an interview, I think I'm not even going to bother rescheduling and just devote the time that I would have rescheduled to shooting more original stuff and trying to find other people who are available to be interviewed. Because, I ended up wasting, if you count time walking to the panels, all time in the panels, all that stuff, I probably wasted about 3 hours of time I could have been covering other things at the convention, trying to get these guys for an interview. And again, no ill will, but I'll know better for next year. And lastly, I'd like to discuss 3 things that I think could be improved if they decide to have me back next year to cover DragonCon. First off, as I said, staying on site is a must. I'm going to definitely have to try and get a hotel room in one of the host hotels, so instead of coming back here and editing till 3 or 4 in the morning, I can go and shoot stuff until 4 or 5 in the afternoon when everything slows down for mealtime, go back to the room, capture, edit, come back out at like 8 or 9 o'clock, do coverage, or just hang out with people. Next, covering a convention is a lot different than attending a convention, which I found out the hard way. I had put a lot of time in my schedule for panels I wanted to go see, meeting up with friends, all that sort of thing, which, while great, kind of hurt my convention coverage a little bit just because it takes so long to get anywhere. It's a huge convention. It compromises 4 hotels. You have to walk half a mile to get anywhere. And having all that personal stuff in between my coverage really slowed down the amount of stuff I could do. Instead of going and being able to concentrate on, say, Artist Alley for 2 or 3 hours, I had to go down there for 45 minutes and then get to the next thing. And lastly, I'm going to try and be a lot better about scheduling interviews. The main point to take away is I need to be a lot more concise and planned out with my time, I think, for next year. And with that, it's time for questions. As in the last episode, you can submit questions to the video editing subreddit. I have a thread there. I'll probably put one up before the next episode comes out because I'm about out of questions from the first thread. You can reply me at Bill Meeks. You can email me, contact@meeksmixmedia.com, or you can find me on Google+. I'm listed as Bill Meeks over there, and just shoot me an reply to something I've posted, or shoot me an email with any questions you might have about freelance media production or freelancing in general. Now, on to the questions. The first question is from McCarney BSA. He had a question in the last episode, too. How often do you turn down jobs, and for what reasons? I probably turn down jobs at least once or twice a month. There's a lot of reasons for turning down a job. One, if my plate's too full, if I have too many clients going, I really don't want to accept their project and do a half-arse job with it, just to get a little extra money in my pocket. I want to give them the full attention I give all my other clients, so I'll turn it down for that. Sometimes they'll want a budget that's way too low. Like, they'll be like, okay, I need a 3-minute animated music video, and my budget is $150. Can't really do that. If I Google a client or see reviews on a job board for that client, and it looks like he's had some problems with freelancers in the past, even if they're portrayed as being the freelancer's problem, not a problem with him in particular, I'll probably go ahead and pass, because he's going to be very, very nitpicky and involved and probably never satisfied. Like, I've learned this over time after dealing with a ton of clients who I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, they had a bad experience with a freelancer. I'll give them a good experience with a freelancer. And then they turn out to be a total jerk. So I'll turn down clients for that too. Next up, we have a question from Modus, which I believe he had a question last time too. How do you get work that isn't weddings? How do you get corporate work? I'm guessing he's asking, more or less, how do I get a job? I get a lot of my work actually through elance.com. So it's kind of controversial. There's some people who think that Elance takes too much of a cut of your profits. They don't take much. They take less than 10%. If you submit it through PayPal or whatever, that's all included, all inclusive. Basically, the way to get around that is when you bid for the job, you take what you think it's worth, and then you add that percentage, like that. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's something like they take 7%. So you just add 7% onto the cost of the project and make it up that way. I have tried looking for jobs on Craigslist, but a lot of them are very low budget. I had one that almost worked out, but then it just the client dead fished on me, and I wasn't able to get that job. So I've never personally had any success with Craigslist. I don't want to say don't use Craigslist, but I personally haven't had any success with it. I wouldn't recommend it. I'd say about 30% of the work I get is repeat work, repeat clients, people who come back for another video or animation or whatever later on down the line, which is nice. But it takes a couple years to get that going. I'm just now getting to where my repeat clients is about equal with my clients I go and seek out. And lastly, I have a website with a ton of samples on it of all kinds of different videos and animations, and a little button that says Hire Us that people can click on and request a quote. I get probably 1 or 2 clients a month that way. And between that and doing 2 or 3 hours of bidding on Elance a week and the repeat clients, I end up with 8 to 10 clients a month. So it's worked out pretty well. You just have to find a few different avenues, because sometimes there won't be any jobs on Elance, or I won't be getting any contact forms in. So you have to have alternatives so you can keep your your cash flow steady. And finally, Reddit username, a very nice chat ask, if I could give him some general tips on working with clients. My first tip for working with clients is the client isn't your boss. The client is a client. You're doing a service for them. And as weird as you have to kind of get out of this mental thing where you're like, oh, I have to satisfy this person to the nth degree. You can fire a client. I've fired several clients if they get too needy or they want unlimited revisions. You know, if you feel you're being taken advantage of or you're not making what you're worth, you can fire your client. One other tip for working with clients is you need to be very professional, but you need to know when you can be kind of lighthearted and fun too. If the client enjoys interacting with you, they're more likely to come back. Now, you kind of have to feel that out. Don't go out there being like, yo, what's up, dog? You my client, yo. You know, but if they send you an email in kind of a joking manner like that, it's okay to respond back in kind. You know, just kind of feel it out. It's like a mirror thing. You know, just respond to the movements they make. Don't make the movements yourself, but once they make that movement, feel free to make that movement too. It kind of strengthens the client service provider relationship. And, you know, you can, a lot of times you can make friends with your clients that way too, which is always nice because, you know, when they have someone who needs a job done, they're going to think of you because you're their buddy. You know, you're the guy that you have that great inside joke with. So, you know, you want to establish a very friendly relationship with your client while still keeping it on a professional level or as professional as the client wants it to be. Well, that about wraps it up for another episode of Mixing Media with me, Bill Meeks. If you want to, go ahead, like I said, submit your questions to Reddit or my email or Twitter or Google+. You can send up smoke signals, whatever. I'll respond to them in the next episode. And I'm going to try and find something really, really fun for the next episode as the A segment. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to be having a voiceover session here soon. Maybe I'll record that and show you guys that. Show you a little bit of how I do what I do. But again, I'm Bill Meeks, and we'll see you next time.